I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Shackleton Base from Pandasaurus. Shackleton Base is a 1-4 player, worker placement area control game with asymmetric corporations that will drastically shift up the game every time you play. I'm going to start by saying two things. Number one, I will not be doing a full rules teach for this video. I'll be trying to give you a general overview of how the game operates. While the game is actually pretty easy to understand and play once you're up and running, I do find the initial rules overload can be a bit much. I'm not going to be doing that in this video. General overview only. Number two, this is one of my first two 5 out of 5s that I'm giving this year. I'm just going to start off early that way. You can skip to the final thoughts if you want, but I'll tell you out the gate, I am obsessed with this game. I love this game. I want you to know that, so I'm telling you this quick and early, so if check out this game if you have an opportunity. The other, by the way, is Pirates of Maracaibo. Check out that video review as well. I'm currently very, very obsessed with these two games. But with that said, let's talk a little bit of Shackleton Base. Let's talk about what I like, don't like, and see how it's not liking, and then dive into the final thoughts where I'll just tell you once again how much I'm obsessed with this game. Number one, let's start off with how to play the game, the general idea of the game. Shackleton Base will play out across 3 rounds. In each round, you're going to look at this chart over here. It gives you this nice little chart that tells you what you're going to be doing, and you're going to be playing with 3 of the 7 different corporations. Right now I have my player board, the main board, and then these 3 corporations that add a different rules adjustment and flavor text to the game. Not really flavor text, like a style, a game, mechanics and elements that will change up the way you interact with the game. The game comes with 7 different corporations. You'll be using 3 in each game, and the combination of them is going to give you different gameplay options. But that's kind of the extra. We can tell you the general idea of how the game works, and then give you an idea of how these corporations add to the gameplay. The general idea is its worker placement. You're going to start off each round by drafting these tiles. It's all listed over here. It goes through this over here. Basically going to have these tiles in place, and players are going to draft tiles that give you turn order, resources, and your workers for the round. Different color resources. You always get different color workers. You're always getting 6, but what you can do with those is going to depend based on the color of those workers. So you draft your 6 workers, and then from there, you're going to be taking turns using these workers to take actions in one of 3 core areas. You'll either be going over here to this spot over here, which is going to allow you to place an astronaut over there and then get an astronaut back that's going to go into your base. The reason you're doing that is because a core concept of the game is you're going to be building various buildings that will go out onto the board and then filling those building spots with astronauts that will help you out. So you're managing multiple things there. You're building buildings and you're filling those buildings up on your core board with astronauts that will give you benefits, whether they are reduction in costs, whether they're income, whether they're points. They'll give you a variety of benefits by filling those up. And going to this spot is one of the ways you get those astronauts, plus $3, plus an extra action. These core actions are going to be available in a bunch of different areas, but they're useful to get your hands on. We'll come back to those later. The next spot you can go is over here in this area. This is where you're going to place an astronaut onto a little spot around the board. You take an astronaut, you put it on a spot, and then you activate that entire row, or at least that entire row wherever anyone has presence. You will pay that amount of money to people who have control in areas where you are not present. Meaning, in other words, if you are present in an area, you don't pay that cost, you simply gain the benefit. If you are not present, you will pay the person who has control of that area for the privilege of being able to activate and benefit from that spot. As far as what you're going to get, it depends which color astronaut you place. Red astronauts will simply give you $3 per spot. So it gives you money right now in this spot, 1, 2, 3. That center spot is not a spot. So you get $9 and possibly paying a little bit of money to this player over here because red doesn't have a presence there. A blue astronaut will give you the resources in these little bubbles. These are the corporation tokens. When you have corporations in play, they're going to add their own tokens to the board that give you various resources you can get from those that will help you with those corporations. So effectively, you're getting whatever the corporation bonuses are when you utilize a blue worker. And then there's yellow workers. Yellow workers will give you the core resources of the game, titanium and raw minerals, and you can use those rare minerals in order to go ahead and build various buildings plus other things in the game. So again, basic resources, money, or the corporation bonuses, and then possibly paying income or paying the cost to players who have control of that area if you are not present. That is going to be this action over here. And then this action spot is divided up into 3 types of actions. We have build, we have gathering cards, which are research projects, and then we have those various actions, these tokens over here. Corporations have them too. But let's start with the basic one, build. When you go to one of these spots, you're going to take a person there. You don't have to use a yellow. You could use whatever color you want, but if you use a different color, you won't get the bonus action for that row. So yellow actions are going to be better for building, red actions are going to be better for these cars, these research projects, and then blue is going to be better for those extra auxiliary actions. If we put a yellow down here, we're going to have the opportunity to build. Again, any color will do that, but yellow will give you an extra benefit. You'll take one of your buildings, you'll pay the cost, you'll put it onto the board. There is an entire power mechanic in the game where you'll have to make sure there is enough power and possibly provide power if there isn't enough power. This is a shared resource you're going to be using. It's pretty simple once you're up and running, but again, I'm going to kind of skip that for the sake of this overview. So you're going to be able to use a yellow astronaut to place one of your buildings onto the board, and there are a few rules as far as where you can go, how you can go, powered, being in the same spot, but the basic idea is you're taking a building and you're putting it onto the board. The red spot's going to allow you to take these research projects, otherwise known as cards. Each corporation brings their own deck of cards to the game that is going to give you different bonuses, one-time bonuses, end game points, and then abilities that will take place. Sometimes they can be just general, always in place, sometimes they happen when certain actions trigger, but they're going to give you a bunch of ongoing bonuses, usually flavored to whatever that corporation is doing, but giving you a wide degree of extra things, just a ton of extra stuff that will happen in the game. And the order those cards come out, there's always going to be 2 available, and the order those come out will definitely shift up the way you interact with that corporation. And then lastly, we have these auxiliary actions. The main ways you're going to benefit from these are using the corporation's auxiliary action, which usually is the way of interfacing with that corporation, gaining its benefit or bonuses. Or alternatively, on this reputation track, there are also ways to cash in on those actions there as well. So again, worker placement with 3 core ideas. You're going to be building, gathering cars, taking auxiliary actions. You'll be going over here to populate your buildings, get extra money when you're in a pinch, as well as taking auxiliary actions. And down here, you're going to be earning resources, money, or corporation tokens, depending on what you place down in certain rows. That's the core puzzle that's going on over here. You're going to be doing that across 3 rounds, which means a total of 18 placements. 6 astronauts, 6 astronauts, 6 astronauts. Granted, there's 5 fingers in each hand, but you get the idea over there. 18 placements across the course of the game. That brings us to the corporations. Now, I will not be going over all 7 corporations today. I've played with all 7. I probably should do a ranking at some point, but we'll get to that in the future. But for right now, as far as the corporations go, as far as these 3 that are on the table go, just to give you a general idea of how they interface with the game, this corporation over here, Selenium Research, is going to give you the ability to gather tokens from their spots over here and pay those tokens for these specific projects that are going to give you benefits, either ongoing, endgame, different benefits over here from these tokens. It can be points, resources, income, all these different things. Additionally, each corporation has a way to get additional bonus points if you accomplish certain objectives. So for example, this one will give you bonus points if you've achieved 2, 4, or 6 of these tokens throughout the course of play. So basically, that's a pretty straightforward one. It's one of the recommended beginner ones where you're going to be gathering extra resources that are otherwise not present in the game and then trading them in for the specific tokens that corporation provides. There'll be different ones for levels 1, 2, or 3 depending on which age you are in as you play. Then over here we have Skywatch. Skywatch is a major game changer. Skywatch is going to add a basically token that's face down at the beginning of the game that's going to define an area of the board that's going to go boom. Something's going to destroy it, an asteroid is going to come, and that spot and all surrounding spots are going to be destroyed, and players will get penalties based on their buildings that are destroyed in those areas. So it's really, really bad, and you don't know where it's going to land. But if players work together, or on your own, because there's reasons to do both, if you work towards trying to solve that problem, then eventually, once these spots are filled, you'll be able to flip it over and see where the asteroid is going. When the next spot is filled, you minimize the impact, and it's only hurting the center spot, not all the peripheral spots. And if you finally accomplish everything, you will stop the asteroid entirely from hurting others. And if you're like, but what if others don't help me? Well, the good news is, if you're the only one who moves up the track, you will almost certainly not be able to stop the asteroid on your own, but you will be getting benefits along the way, as well as reducing your penalties for your buildings blowing up. So if you're the only person doing so, you will still benefit from that. It's just a question of whether the players join you or not. Then we have 2 Mars. 2 Mars is going to give you a new way to get buildings off the board, which again, this is the way some of these are pretty straightforward. Selenium Research is a pretty straightforward one, doesn't change up the core gameplay, but then Skywatch totally changes the core gameplay. 2 Mars totally changes it, because 2 Mars is going to allow you to take your buildings off the board, placing them on these little asteroids over here as you head towards Mars. I don't know if it's asteroids, I'm just saying that, but you're basically placing it on this board, and you're going to be taking buildings off the main board over to here, which, by the way, that pairs interestingly with Skywatch, because the buildings that are going to be destroyed, you can even go ahead ahead and take those and put those off into space, preventing you from having to invest in Skywatch. So again, this is where the combination of corporations will change up the flavor of the game. But back to Mars, you're going to take buildings up the board, and it gives you a new place to put your astronauts as well. So you might find yourself putting less astronauts on your core board because there's lots of ways of getting points by placing them there as well. So again, let's just give you a general idea of the different ways some of the corporations can interface. There's other corporations that will give you lots of these little robots that you can invest in that will give you tons of little ongoing bonuses. There's corporations that will give you putting like greenhouses onto the main board and giving you bonuses for how those operate as well. Pair that corporation with 2 Mars and suddenly you have a new way of putting extra buildings on the board with a new way of taking things off. The combination will change up the gameplay. That is the basic idea of Shackleton Base. It's a little bit of worker placement, it's a little bit of area control, it's a whole lot of tableau building. We haven't heavily gotten to the cards, but every card is going to give you something that you are better or more powerful at. Maybe you'll get a card that whenever you buy one of these tokens, you get an extra resource back. That's going to give you an incentive to heavily invest in those because you are getting them at a more competitive advantage than other players. Maybe you'll get a card that whenever you cover one of these, you pay 1 less resource. There's lots of abilities that will give you different things that you can do in the game that give you your unique competitive advantage, and it's up to you to seek out those opportunities. The problem is everything is an opportunity, and it's always about a limited amount of actions as well as a limited amount of income and money in order to achieve everything you need to do. With that, let's go ahead and move into my review, what I like, don't like, and see others not liking. Starting off with what I like. In general, the core puzzle, before we even get to the corporations, the core puzzle is already incredibly tense. You are working with a limited number of actions. You're working with those 6 placements every single round, and you're trying to do so much with it. And I will say, I am somebody who's critical of games, though I don't feel I got to do enough. Like, there's a lot of games out there that I've wanted to like, and then when I play them, I'm like, you know what? I want to do things in games. I don't want to feel like I spent the whole entire first round doing that one thing. I want to do multiple things. I want to feel like I'm having fun. And I will say that while every decision is tense and while every resource matters, I will say with Shackleton Base, I definitely feel like I get enough done that I feel like I'm having a rewarding experience. It's not purely about punishing and restricting and trying to min-max everything. You can do a lot and you will have fun going through all this. Well, I can't guarantee you'll have fun. I have fun going through all the things that I'll do, but you definitely have to choose where to invest your energy because you can't do everything. This is one of those games where you can do like 70% of what you want to, which I generally find is a good number. If you can do everything, there's not a challenge. If you can do too little, it's punishing. If you can do just around 70-80%, that always makes you want to go back in and explore more, and the corporations give you even more variety to that exploration. But the core puzzle is a combination of the worker placement, the different spots on the board, the tenseness. One of the things we didn't talk about, every single one of these spots, as you go there, it increases the spot for the next person. So if you want to build, if other players are quickly building, it's going to be expensive for you to build. The problem is everything's that way. So what are you going to invest in as you go, and where are your resources and how are you juggling it all? You will be planning several turns in advance, and you will have your plans change based on where people go in the game. Every decision has so much weight to it because there's only 18 core decisions in the game, right? More peripheral decisions. For example, if you buy a card, that's a decision. Which card you buy is a different decision. So it's lots of cascading from what you're doing, but your core turns are 18 turns of placing an astronaut, resolving all those effects, of which there are going to be multiples. For example, when you go here, you're taking multiple auxiliary actions. That's going to give you a lot of different things you're doing. And you can get enough done, like I said already, that it feels really satisfying as you go. And it gives you a different combination. The corporations are going to give you an additional flavor to the game that is not just going to add to what the core game is doing, but it gives you different ways to explore the game every single time. At this point, I've played with every corporation, and I've tried mixing and matching different corporations because if you see something like Skywatch, again, a good example is I have not played with 2 Mars, and I can't remember the name of it, but there's a corporation that puts little greenhouses on the board. I haven't played with those 2 together, but just the idea that one is going to add things, one's going to take things off, that's going to change up the way that you play the game, contrasted with having one that adds and one that takes off, but separately as you play. Or even just the combination of Skywatch and 2 Mars, like I pointed out already, how that's going to both make the planet destroy, but also give you ways to take things off the planet if you see them being destroyed. And so those little flavor adjustments as you both engage with how each corporation works on its own, because each of the 7 is fun. I definitely have I'll save the rankings for another day, because I guarantee you this is going to be one of those games that does get a 12x12 review at some point. A 12x12 review is where I've played the game in every format, every player count, every single situation, and at least 12 times. This will be getting that at some point. I'll do a corporation ranking in that video. I want to dive into, I played with Some of them multiple times, some of them only one time, but in general, they all add something to the game. The level to which they add is going to vary drastically. Some majorly shift up the gameplay, and some give you a little augmented sideboard to play with, but they all add their own flavor to the game. And there's lots of ways to build up your tableau. So many things in this game are going to help you get stronger, whether it's the cards, whether it's buildings. Having placement on the board is key. Having tons of cards is key. Getting people into your buildings over here, your astronauts here, that's also key. And because everything is key, you have to decide what it is you're going to do. And speaking of the cards are going to change up the gameplay even within a corporation. If you play with Skywatch, the order that the cards come out will totally change the way you engage with Skywatch from game to game. There's some cards that are better end game, some cards that are better early game. Having those opportunities of what is on the board and how you choose to approach those corporations, this game gives you such a satisfying core puzzle, so many ways to mix it up, and every single turn you feel like you're getting something fun done while you work your way towards your objectives. As far as what I don't like in the game, really only two things. First of all, I will say that the initial teach is long. It's not complicated, but it is long. You have to go through all the intricacies of this board, of which there's like a lot of things that are pretty straightforward, like the idea of worker placement, pretty straightforward. But all the ins and outs of how does the shared energy pool work? How does your reputation track work? What are the various costs you're going to be paying at the end of the round? All these different things, they all add up to a decent rules teach. And then you have to teach each of the corporations, which isn't huge, but they do add their own little level of rules. Once you know the core game, I still have to teach you each of the corporations' auxiliary action, each of the corporations' tokens, each of the corporations' endgame bonuses, how they score, each of the corporations' awards. I have to teach you each of the elements that a corporation adds. Some are easier than others, but it does mean this is one of the longer teaches, not longest by any shot, but it's definitely a longer teach relative to your average Euro game that you'd be playing. But I will say that so that's something it's intuitive once you get going, but the initial rules overload is certainly a lot. The other thing I'll say is it's better at 3 and 4 players. At 2 players, there is I haven't played solo yet, but at 2 players, there is a way to kind of add a little bit of clutter to the board. But for the most part, I find 3 and 4 players is going to deliver the best experience. Not a major critique, but I do play a lot of my games at 2 players, so having one of my favorite games of the year be one that's not as good at 2 players definitely takes a little bit away from the experience. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, it can be a little AP prone, analysis paralysis prone. Because there's so much weight to every action you take in the game, it is very common in this game for players to take an action, rethink it, want to change it, adjust it, as they realize all the cascading ramifications of the action they take. Each action, therefore, can be AP prone, and not just that, with only 18 actions in the game, a single action where you screw up your planning, your economy, how much resources you have, or what it is you're trying to get, that can be very defeating. It can be very hard to come back from a single bad action. It's slightly less ideal is one thing, but if you screw up your entire turn, and you notice when it's too late to adjust it or account for it or whatever it is, and suddenly before you know it, your entire turn's run out because you don't have the resources you need that rare mineral, you don't have that rare mineral, which means your whole cascading set of turns, because it's so tight, a single really bad turn can have a lasting effect, and it's also prone to analysis paralysis. Those two things go hand in hand. I'll also say that, depending on your level of what you want in games, it's relatively low player interaction. Make no mistake, this is not multiplayer solitaire, not by any shot, but the main interaction is going to come from taking spots that players want, and then the fact that you are playing a bit of an area control puzzle. But it's not a higher interaction Euro. It's a little on the lower side, a little medium-ish. It depends on the corporations you play as well, so that can have an effect. But again, for me, it's not a problem at all. I love the game as it is, but if you're looking for something with more interaction, this is a little bit on the lower side. As far as final thoughts, I told you this was going to happen, and it's going to happen. This is a 5 out of 5 game for me. I am loving this game. I am happy to play this any single day, any single time. I don't care what I need to play for reviews or crowdfunding or this or that. I will happily play Shackleton Base. I have been having so much fun with this game, and I cannot wait to continue to dive into it. At some point, maybe the combination of corporations will get boring, and I'll be less enthused by diving back into it. My hope is that by that point they introduce new corporations, which will give you more ways to mix and match, and possibly new mechanics to the game. All of those things. When I really like a game, I'm already excited about the expansions that will come. I don't know what the plans are for Shackleton Base. I know it's been well received enough that I hope there's going to be expansion content for it. Sometimes I really love a game and it's just not well received enough, and then I have to it's just me. But this time, Shackleton Base is so much fun. It's one of those games that people were talking about, and then when you play it, you're like, I could have been playing this for months now. I could have been playing for half a year. I could have been really diving into this. I love this game. I don't know what it is, but something about the combination of actions, something about the corporations and all the auxiliary actions pinging in different directions, something about it all does all the things that my brain likes to hear, those little neurons firing and feeling rewarded as I play. It's tight without being too tight. It is, it's a decent Euro game without being too long or too short. It gives you a good amount of fun for the experience. I cannot get enough of this, and I'm excited to continue to play this game. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. As far as other game recommendations, definitely check out SETI. I found that the way the corporations interact with the base game did feel very reminiscent of SETI. I guess technically I think Shackleton base came out before SETI. I could be wrong with that. Honestly, I'm not sure with that. I have to double check that. But it did feel very, very reminiscent of SETI as far as the way you have 5 aliens and 2 are in each game. This one you have 7 corporations, 3 are in each game. A little bit different. These are here from the get-go. You don't discover them. But it definitely had that, space theme combined with something that mixes up the core gameplay in a very rewarding game. Plus, of course, cards. Cards are lots of fun. And then also Galactic Cruise. Another game that's space themed with worker placement with its own different puzzle. If you want something a little heavier than this one, check out Galactic Cruise from Key Games for a much meatier experience. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.